Hi folks, Kate Cashman here from katecashman.com and The Breath Between. This week I'm going to be following on from the similar theme to last week, which was about quietness. Now last week I spoke about quiet parenting and some of the lessons that we've learnt around quiet parenting that have just transformed our family and has transformed us as individuals. But I'm also going to talk about a practice that we've been implementing into our lives and we hope to continue to implement as our children get older, and that is periods of silence. So it's all about reducing the talking and the beauty of silence, even for type A extroverts like me. So those of you who've met me before know I love to talk. I really, really love to talk. I'm a typical type A personality and I'm a typical extrovert, but I do value time alone. It totally and utterly recharges me, not in the same way as those who are further along on the introvert spectrum, the further along on the spectrum towards introvert sort of personality types. But I still need my time alone and I feel very refreshed and very, I suppose, more in tune with myself, and I meditate every day. So I do meditate and have that quiet time, and I need that quiet time. Otherwise, I feel like I'm totally off kilter. But I think that the actual beauty of having periods of purposeful silence in your life is something that we can totally and utterly learn from, and things that can transform our lives. So I am really looking forward to introducing this with our family. Our children are probably a little bit young at the moment. My daughter's almost 15 months old and my son is almost 4. So telling those two small people to observe periods of silence, probably not going to happen. And admittedly, it is pretty tricky for me to do it. But when I see the benefits of what it does for me, I absolutely love to do it. So for those of you who would love to get away on retreat and to do more silent work, but don't have the time or don't have the money or don't have the opportunity necessarily because of your family or because of your work, this is something that you can practice at home. So it's like retreating, but in your own space. And I just think that that's so magic. And it's something that as my children get older is something that we are going to implement as a family as well, because I want them to learn the value of silence. So the benefits, in terms of how much silence you can practice, you can carry a notepad around and write notes to your loved ones, to your friends, to your family, whatever you want to do. But I think that the period of silence is not necessarily going to matter so much. You can create purposeful silence in an hour. You can create purposeful silence. I'm not just talking about sitting on the computer doing work, but observing periods of silence when you would otherwise be talking. Now, we try and do it for shorter periods of time. It's usually after the kids have gone to bed, if we're reading, if we're pottering around the house, if we're doing yoga, whatever that is, that's our period in order to cultivate silence. But I would love to grow this practice as something that we observe as a family for days at a time and weekends at a time as we get older, like retreating at home. But there are lots of benefits to introducing silence and what makes silence so fabulously good for us. And those are the things that I wanted to touch on today. So if you have any doubt about trying to quieten down, reduce the talking, even observing silence, after this post, you won't have any of those doubts left. The first benefit that I wanted to touch on is that you actually end up being satisfied with less. So it's not just that speaking means that you want more, but you actually become satisfied with less words. So not necessarily satisfied with less of everything, although that might happen, but you're satisfied with less words. And as a law student, I was certainly taught that if you're verbose, you need to really cut back to a minimum amount of words. And a lot of people wouldn't necessarily agree with that if you've had anything to do with lawyers, but we are taught that you need to reduce the amount of words that you use. So you end up being satisfied with less words, which is a great thing. The second thing is it allows your conscious mind to develop. Your self-awareness is improved no end. And it's unbelievable how much your conscious mind hears, thinks, and develops while there's no noise, because it has that space to do so. The third reason why silence is a beautiful practice to observe in any capacity is that it actually reduces the levels of cortisol in our body. So it reduces the stress hormone. And that's something that can only be a good thing. So many of us are stressed, so many of us are tired. Reducing those stress hormones is so important, and silence is actually a beautiful way to do that. The fourth reason is it improves productivity. And the reason why, if you practice intermittent periods of silence, and it's purposeful silence, then you're giving yourself an active break from whatever it is that you're engaging in. And by that very nature, when you're re-engaging with that activity, you're more productive because your mind is fresh, you've had that break, and you can move on. The next reason is that it actually decreases frustration and anxiety, because it's a practice of going inward. So like mindfulness, like meditation, so too is silence is a form of those things, but silence is going inward, and anything that allows you to go inward and to settle yourself inside yourself is going to decrease those levels of anxiety and stress and frustration, and that's a fantastic thing. Now, the next thing is it actually improves your memory. So periods of silence will improve your memory because your brain has uninterrupted focus for those periods of time. So if we are, and there are a lot of scientific explanations for this, but because I'm not a scientist, I can't explain it to you in a scientific way. But when I have periods of silence, I definitely am able to better recall, particularly if there's something that I know that I'm thinking about, but I can't quite remember what it is. If I sit in periods of silence, I'll often remember those things that I've been thinking about and trying to recall for ages. So it's a really fantastic practice. If there's something that you need to remember, having that uninterrupted period of silence is a really good way to get it back to you. And the final reason that I wanted to touch on why you should consider observing purposeful silence is that ideas can marinate. So if you're thinking about something, if you're developing something new, if you want to tune into your intuition, if you're tuning into your inspiration and being creative, then purposeful silence allows you to generate thought. And often that's when our most creative, wonderful visions and ideas come to fruition. So all of those reasons are great reasons just to switch off this, switch on these as well. There's a reason why we have 2 ears, 2 eyes, and only 1 mouth. But it's so easy, particularly for people like me, as an extrovert and someone who has a very full life. It's easy for someone like me to forget to do that. But I often think it's even more important if you're at that stage. So I hope that by listening to this, you too have perhaps considered during the last 8 minutes that silence might be something that's a great activity for you to be purposeful with. Start with an hour, move up to 2 hours. Say that one weekend you and your friends or your family, or if it's just you, observing that silence for half a day or even a weekend. And you can get the benefits or some of the benefits of going on retreat, but all whilst at home. We're going to go on to a new focus for the next fortnight. And so I can't wait to tune in with you in the next week for our next session of the video blog. Talk to you soon, and I can't wait to slow down together. As always, bye now.